When people are the engine of your business, we fine-tune their performance to maximise your profits.
Hi, I'm Hitesh Patel, Performance Improvement Coach at Accelerate Training. When we ask delegates on our sales program, what's the skill you'd most like to practice and improve? Objection handling is the unanimous answer. The skill of overcoming the concerns and resistance that a buyer has voiced about a solution that we've just put forward. This tutorial will share key insights to the nature of objections, both from buying and selling perspectives, and it'll also demonstrate an objection handling technique we teach at Accelerate Training. Armed with this technique, you're going to feel more confident about handling objections and more competent in overcoming objections to close more sales. So first, let's take a look at the daunting nemesis of many salespeople, the objection. Any concern or resistance to a sales proposition we've put forward can be considered an objection. Now, usually we perceive objections to be a threat to our selling opportunity, so they often provoke feelings of fear, panic, defensiveness, and sometimes even aggressiveness towards the buyer. Visions of a vanishing commission check, the angry grimace of a disappointed sales manager, the wasted hours of time and resource we've plowed into developing the opportunity so far, embarrassment, perhaps a loss of credibility, and even the risk of loss of livelihood start playing on our minds and starts undermining our composure, confidence, and objectivity. This in turn erodes the buyer's confidence in the solution and ultimately us. It's our fear of objections that's the first hurdle we need to overcome. So we need to better understand the nature of objections and some of the motives behind them. Objections can occur at any stage during the sales discussion. And so the methodologies we use in our program, the art of consultative selling, make thorough provision for tackling objections that can be anticipated at any one of these selling stages. It could be right at the beginning, at the contact step, when sellers need to get the attention and interest of the buyer to be able to secure that first conversation or meeting. Or then next when we need to connect with buyers and build the trust and rapport that gets them sharing information more openly. Once that openness in place, we then need to collate information about the buyer's challenges with effective questioning and listening. Only then do we move forward to the convey stage, where we put forward our proposition or our solution to the buyer's challenges. The buyer may have some concerns about the solution, which we'll then need to tackle in the counter step, before finally getting them to commit to our proposition and closing the deal. We can experience objections at any one of the key stages of selling, and so our program focuses on preventing and preempting a number of the potential objection factors along the way. Now, this tutorial focuses on in-the-moment objection handling in the counter step, those precarious moments just after we've proposed and put our solution forward and are anticipating the buyer's response. First, let's dig a little deeper to better understand some of the dynamics we need to influence to be able to handle objections effectively. During this analysis, we're going to dip a toe into Accelerate Training's fundamentals of influence, several key tenets of behavior and attitude that allow us to better influence others. Now, to understand the buyer's objections, we're going to embrace the first fundamental of influence, which is based on a Native American proverb that suggests that we walk a mile in our neighbor's moccasins to better understand their perspectives before we judge their behaviors and decisions. Feel free to visit a short video that will tell you all about that fundamental. In this instance, the neighbor is the buyer, and their moccasins are the various factors that may be influencing their perspective of the selling situation. So rather than get wrapped up in the fears and apprehensions in our own heads, why don't we put a toe into our buyer's moccasins and see what's going on in theirs? Let's remind ourselves that buyers have fears, concerns, and responsibilities of their own. And these will all have some bearing on the objections that they'll raise. Do you remember the concerns churning over in your own thoughts the last time you had to make an important buying decision?
Wow, this is a big decision I'm making. Do I really need this? Is this really worth the investment? What if it doesn't work? I'll get the blame. Maybe I should get some advice before I make a decision. Could I get this cheaper somewhere else? Can I trust this salesperson to give me a good deal? My existing supplier isn't so bad. Better the devil you know.
It's our understanding of these concerns, combined with an insight to the buyer's job role and motives, that will help us craft a strategy for overcoming their potential resistance. Now, most objections shouldn't really come as a surprise, so our real challenge is to understand what priority each objection has, and then think about the options available to us for overcoming those concerns without eroding our profit margins. Now, the most powerful objection handling tool is the thoroughness of collecting information in the collate step of the sales discussion. And so our course, The Art of Consultative Selling, focuses upon mastering some of the questioning and listening skills therein. Now, this tutorial is going to provide you a quick introduction to an objection handling technique called park and flush, which we deploy at the counter stage of the sales discussion. Let me tell you some more about it. Now, this technique seeks to park individual objections, gather more information about each of those objections, flush out any hidden objections, and assess their priorities before finally answering with solutions that will overcome the buyer's concerns. Now, let's take a look at how this works. Having presented our solution at the convey stage of the sales discussion, we'll start by asking the buyer, well, how does that sound? When they respond, we'll take the following steps to apply the park and flush technique. Step 1 is listen. No, really, listen, because we've got to look at the buyer's words from a number of different perspectives. Firstly, what are they saying, and why are they saying it? What are their motives? How strong a concern is it? How does it compare to their other concerns? And what is it that the buyer thinks needs to happen to alleviate some of their concerns? Once we've listened attentively, we have to resist the overwhelming urge to answer the objection. And this is the one golden rule of Fight Club. Of Objection Handling Club. Do not answer the first objection. Before we answer any single objection, we have to uncover any other hidden concerns that may be stopping the buyer making a favourable decision, and then assessing our ability to be able to overcome and alleviate them. So why are we so adamant about this golden rule of objection handling? Well, think about it. If the first objection relates to an area of weakness or minimal flexibility for us, it could become a showstopper before we've even had a chance to listen to any other concerns that we might be better positioned to address. The danger of tackling one objection at a time, without seeing the bigger picture of concerns, is that it starts to undermine our negotiating position. A shrewd buyer will simply follow with endless other objections and concession demands that will erode our profitability in the deal. Buyers often do this to undermine the confidence of the seller, whose increasing desperation to close the deal makes them more prone to giving away greater concessions. This is where the park and flush strategy comes into play, and step 2 allows us to systematically extract more detail about the buyer's objections and establish their relative priority before we respond with any solutions or concessions. Now let's see how to tackle this challenge. Step 1 advised us to listen attentively. In fact, so attentively that we could repeat the buyer's words back to them verbatim. To do this, we must avoid any temptation to interrupt or correct the buyer, no matter how wrong or ill-advised their perspective may be. Whilst we're resisting temptations, let's remind ourselves of the first golden rule of Objection Handling Club. We must resist all temptation to answer the first objection until all objections have been uncovered. So, if we're not going to answer or correct the buyer's perspective, what are we going to do? Would you believe it? The exact opposite. The first action in step 2 is to cushion and question the first objection. Now let me explain this combination. To do this, we're going to embrace another fundamental of influence, which suggests that we swim with the current before we build the dam. Now this link will take you to a short video that will tell you all about the fundamental. And it may sound a little bit cryptic, but what this fundamental suggests is that the best way to counter someone's opposing opinion is to first validate or align with it in some way, to lessen their resistance to our opposing view. Swimming with the current, rather than opposing it, immediately appeases the egotistical attachment that a buyer will have to their objection. It's more likely to lessen their resistance and increase their open-mindedness to an opposing view that may follow. At some point, we are going to build a dam that will oppose the flow of their thinking, but we want to minimize any defensiveness or confrontation that this may provoke. Maintaining good relationships throughout the objection handling process is essential, and swimming with the current is a good way of keeping goodwill intact during disagreement. No one likes their opinion to be disputed or contradicted. So to build the dam, we must first cushion the blow of our questioning and challenging of the buyer's concerns or objections. The cushion in the cushion and question step is simply an empathetic statement that aligns with some aspect of the buyer's concern, and it demonstrates that we have an understanding of the underlying factors. So for instance, if the buyer, who we'll call Chris, cites X as a key factor in their concerns, our cushion statement should validate why it's perfectly reasonable to have X as a concern. For example, Chris, I appreciate your concern about X, as it's an essential aspect of the solution, and it's important that you're completely comfortable it is indeed fit for purpose. Or Chris, I see where you're coming from with regards to X, and I too would want to feel reassured that X was in place before going ahead with this project. Okay, so we've attentively listened and cushioned the objection, so it's time to respond, right? Not quite. We're at a crucial threshold in the objection handling discussion, and it's one that we must use to our advantage. Our listening and cushioning have earned us the right to ask the all-important question that follows a cushion and helps us discover what we need to address the objection. Chris, what is it about X that you're concerned about? Chris, how would X need to change for you to feel more confident about the proposed solution? Or Chris, how will changing X impact your business as a result? These are just 3 examples of questions that will gather some key intelligence about the nature and the potential priority of the concern or objection that the buyer has. Once again, we listen so attentively to the buyer's response that we could repeat their words back to them. Now you may have noticed that I've laboured this listening attentively thing, and there's a reason for this. It embraces another fundamental of influence, which is let others speak first, listen, record, and replay. And there's a link to a video which will elaborate on this fundamental. But what it suggests is that people are more likely to embrace our suggestions when we frame them in their own words and perspectives. So when we use the same words and phrases and map our suggestions onto their opinions, the buyer is less likely to resist our suggestions. Be careful though. We want to avoid parrot-like mimicry, because that's more likely to offend the buyer and rapidly erode goodwill. So listen and record, but be careful with the replay as we put it into practice in step 3, which is park and flush, which helps us park voiced objections and flush out any hidden objections. Let's pick up where we left off with Chris, who had cited X as his first objection. Let's first begin by asking Chris what it is about X that's causing him concern. So Chris, what is it about X that's causing you concern? Hitesh, well that's way beyond the SLA that we've agreed with our client. Well Chris, what would you need the SLA to be? It would need to be 30 days maximum, Hitesh. Well, here's how we're going to park and flush Chris's objections. Chris, if I can reduce the lead time for X closer to 30 days to be more in keeping with your client SLA, would there be any other concerns that would stop you going ahead with this solution? What we've done there is use the park and flush statement And this statement must begin with an if. Why? Because we're not committing to resolving X. We're simply verifying whether X is the only concern we need to address. By asking, would there be any other concerns, we're trying to flush out any other objections that the client may have. Now, if we're lucky, Chris will answer no, and X will be the only concern we need to focus on to tweak our solution to meet the buyer's needs. The likelihood, however, is that the answer will be yes, because any savvy buyer is likely to have a number of suggestions of concern up their sleeves if they're ready to play the negotiation game of buying and selling. Now, our objective here is to park and flush all of the objections out into the open, so we can better assess their respective priorities before we start amending our solution or offering concessions to secure the deal. Having X, Y, and Z out in the open allows us to decide which of them we can, want, or we must resolve to secure the deal. We might not have a lot of flexibility with X, but it could be that Y might be much easier to resolve, and we'd be better off resolving Y thoroughly than struggling with a roadblock at X. If we don't park and flush Y and Z into the open, we might lose the deal because we can't resolve X, and it turns out that Y and Z might have been more important to the buyer. The first objection is rarely the highest priority for the buyer, and is often used as an opening gambit for buyers in their negotiation strategy. So if our flushing is working, and the buyer responds with yes, there are some other concerns, we simply repeat the park and flush process to reveal Y, Z, and any other remaining concerns that the buyer may have, until the answer to, would there be any other concerns, is finally no. Only then do we start comparing each of the flushed group of objections and start deciding where we should be considering changing our solution or offering concessions to the buyer. The park and flush technique arms us with more information and time to compose our thoughts, weigh up our options, and concede only the most impactful changes and concessions to overcome objections and secure the deal. Want to see this technique in action from start to finish? So Chris, how does that sound?
It sounds okay, Hitesh, but we're really happy with our current suppliers.
I tell you what, it's important that you feel that way, and we try and have that kind of relationship with our clients. So what is it about this relationship that you enjoy so much?
Well, there are two particular things that we like about them. They're very good at delivering within our very strict deadlines, and also their customer service is second to none. We have a customer service manager that deals with our problems really quickly.
I see that's going to be an important part of this solution. So if we could match their performance in meeting these strict deadlines and also put a dedicated service manager into the solution, would there be anything else that stops us going ahead?
It really does sound like a hassle to implement something new, a real disruption to our business that we can't afford.
Well, I tell you what, everybody around this solution needs to be comfortable with it, and you mentioned the hassle of implementation. Why is that so important to you?
Because if we have any downtime in our company, then that means we lose money as well as our customers.
Oh, I see, this is essential then. Okay, if we can guarantee completely seamless transition and no downtime, put that service manager in place, and meet those strict deadlines that you have, could there be anything else that would stop us going ahead?
Well, Hitesh, I hate to say it, but you just are more expensive than our competitors.
Expensive sounds like you're comparing. Do you have other offers?
We do, and they are lower.
Can I ask what kind of offers you're getting from others?
You can ask, but you're not going to get anything. I'm not going to make it that easy for you, I'm afraid. But they are a bit lower than yours.
Okay, it's fair. I wouldn't expect you to buy something without comparing it with other solutions. Would it be fair then to compare solutions rather than prices and ensure that you're getting the same solution for the same price? Because we would definitely try to be competitive, having the same comparable solution on the table.
Hitesh, if you can sort out all of those things that I've just mentioned, then I would be really happy to have a look at your competitive analysis.
Great. Let me tell you how we're going to do those three things. Service those strict deadlines, put a dedicated service manager in place, and once you are able to share with us the solutions, compare them and convince you and any other people making the decision that you're getting a comparable solution for a competitive price.
That sounds good.
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much, Hitesh.
You've now learned about the park and flush technique for handling objections and seen it in action. But the real proof of this pudding is the putting it into practice. And so it's time for you to go and try it out for real. Many of our delegates say that it's this technique that gave the biggest boost to their selling confidence, and we hope that it'll do the same for you. Now, if this tutorial has whet your appetite for boosting skills development in your organization, then why not give us a call at Accelerate Training and take a peek at some of our sales, leadership, presentation skills, and personal effectiveness programs. We can help your people reach their peak performance and maximize your profits. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hey, thanks for watching the video. Now, if this was helpful to you, perhaps you might help us raise the awareness of Accelerate Solutions. Give us a like, a share, perhaps tell a colleague or two about these free resources, or leave us a comment down below. Thank you.